Hello, SYNGAP Land. My name is Michael Graglia. This is episode 147 of SYNGAP 10, the SYNGAP 1 podcast. I want to start by letting you guys know that one of the things I did this week that was really exciting is I got to present to the FDA about SYNGAP 1, and that is kind of the holy grail, right? When someone gives you an audience with people at the FDA to help them think about and learn about SYNGAP 1, it's a win. And I want to thank Jake Donahue and Jay and the whole team over at Beacon Biosignals for inviting me. So what happened is Beacon had this opportunity to do a day of education about their technology, which is this device called the Dream device that monitors brain activity during sleep. And they wanted some patient perspectives. And because we've been working closely with Dream for some time, or Beacon, they gave me an opportunity to present. So it was really exciting. And if you want to know what I said, links in the show notes, syngap.fund/FDA24. Of course, I gave that link to them too. So I'm always working hard to make sure that the regulators understand about SYNGAP 1. Because guys, that's our next, our first battle was to get scientists and companies to work on SYNGAP 1. Check, that's happening right now. We're there. 5 years and $6 million later, it's on. Our next battle will be to get a clinical trial developed and then get it through the FDA. And it's not like we have to convince the FDA to approve it. That's not how it's done, right? We have to do a lot of science and a lot of clinical science with doctors, which I'll get to in a second, to make sure we design those trials well. So that's coming, guys. And getting the FDA to learn about SYNGAP 1 and understand the behaviors and the sleep and the absence seizures, it's a big part of the battle. And then the next battle, just so you know what's coming, is we're going to be fighting state by state to get these drugs approved, because these drugs aren't going to be cheap. So let's talk about state by state getting these drugs approved. We have in our ranks Jackie Cancier. Jackie is the director of advocacy for SRF. She is a force of nature. She is a force of nature. And what she has done with her life is nothing short of remarkable. She's advocated in Tennessee. I've talked about this before. She fights for her daughter day and night, and she's the executive director of the National Council on Severe Autism. Why? Because Syngapians have severe autism and severe behaviors. But Jackie, out of the goodness of her heart and some kind of magic, has agreed to be our director of advocacy, which means if you signed up for Jackie's advocacy team, she's not going to advocate for you, because she doesn't have time for that, but she's going to teach you how to advocate. And frankly, she and I are both surprised that she doesn't have, how many Syngapians do we have in America? Like 350? 350 people signing up for that, because we all have to advocate for our kids. It starts with IEPs, it goes on to services, it's going to go on to adult services, and then it's going to go on to paying for these drugs. So if you're like, man, I'm looking at the future and I'm a little nervous and I don't really understand what Mike's talking about when he says advocacy, sign up for Jackie's team. Guys, volunteer with Jackie, go to those meetings, meet other parents fighting the fights I just talked about, because loving our Syngapians and getting them the best possible medicines as fast as possible is going to requires advocacy. And SRF is here to help you, but at the end of the day, you have to be the tip of the spear for your kid in where you are. And so joining Jackie's team is the way to start building that advocacy muscle. Speaking of advocacy, I want to talk about adult advocacy, because guess what? SYNGAP does not limit the lifespan of our loved ones, thank God, which means they're all going to turn into adults. And adult Syngapians is something that is understudied and not well understood. Of course, we are funding that. We're working with Dr. Danielle Andrade on that exact topic, and she's written one paper and is going to publish another. But in addition to that, we've been partnering with one of the drug companies, UBC. UBC makes a number of the anti-epileptic drugs that our patients use. And they have a cool binder that they've developed under the leadership of Lori Bailey over there. Lori's just exceptional. She cares about patients. She's working hard. And so she has agreed to let us put a link on our website to their caregiver resources. And so I urge you to go to our adult page. If your kid is anywhere near being an adult, go to our adult page, syngap.fund/adult. And check out the resources we have there. One of those resources is going to be the caregiver binder from UBC, and I'm really excited that that's available, and I'm grateful to UBC for doing that. Now, the other big news in adult advocacy is Colin Farrell, the famous actor, has a son with Angelman, which you've heard me talk about before. SYNGAP 1 is Angelman-like. There's some significant differences, namely the behaviors, but seizures, developmental disability, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, Colin Farrell's kid has Angelman, and he's been not been super public about that, but it wasn't a secret. But now that his kid's turned 18, he's like, whoa, there's nothing for these kids with developmental disabilities who have turned adults. And he's decided to create the Colin Farrell Foundation to advocate for kids with developmental disabilities. And I think that's really exciting. So in the show notes, I put a link to an interview he did. I put a link to his foundation, and I put a link to a Washington Post article. I think it's really exciting. And if anyone at SRF knows or can get to Colin Farrell, we gotta team up with them a little bit and make sure they've got some SYNGAP stories in there, because our kids really struggle when they turn to adults. So that brings me to my next thing, which is to remind, I'm sort of on an advocacy kick today. If you are like, yeah, I need to get more into this, but I'm just not sure, and the conference isn't soon enough, guess what? Next month, September, Global Genes has their Rare Advocacy Summit in Kansas City. And if you're anywhere near Kansas City, I really urge you to go to that. It is an exceptional meeting where a lot of good people go and a lot of good things happen. And actually, Global Genes is turning 16 this week. And they just published a little Sweet 16 birthday success stories. And on that, they profile a few advocates whose lives have been affected by Global Genes. Yours truly is on there, talking about how right after Tony was diagnosed, I met the founder of Global Genes, Nicole Boyce. And a lot of what she said to me, I still remember that evening, crystal clear. A lot of what she said to me is why I'm here, why I created SRF. But also on that page is Victoria Arteaga, who is the director of SRF and a SYNGAP1 mom, but not talking about SRF or Fondo SYNGAP, which she created, but talking about the Hispanic Society for Rare Diseases, which she created with someone she met at a Global Gene Summit. So even if you're not sure why you're going or whatever, if there's any chance that you can get to Kansas City, September 26th and 27th, check it out. Links in the show notes. This advocacy game is complicated and really it's like a lot of trades, right? You just learn it from working with someone. So we have Jackie Cancer internally, but if you have a chance to go to Kansas City, it's worth your time. Check it out. I want to talk a little bit about science for a second. There's a lot going on, and I cannot thank the leadership of the science team enough. Dr. Catherine Heldy is a SYNGAP1 mom, and there's our CSO. Dr. Lindsay Wizorak, I hope I didn't butcher that, is our science lead, exceptional scientist, SYNGAP1 mom, doing a lot of work on the repurposing. And of course, Dr. Marta Dehia, medical doctor, is our head of clinical. That is quite a team, guys. And there's other people who do a lot of great work. But those three are the leaders, and we're so lucky. And what we've been doing in conversation with the science team is breaking down their work into projects. And I just want to talk to you quickly about the 5 projects, which is how I think about their work, right? Project 1 is Project ACEs. ACEs is Accelerating Clinical Excellence for SRD. SRD meaning SYNGAP-related disorders. And that is all the work we're doing with expanding the clinical trial from CHOP to Colorado and Stanford, and also, which you'll hear about shortly, building some data infrastructure behind that to let the data move. That does not sound very exciting, but it is both essential and expensive. So that's Project ACEs. Project SBOM is the SYNGAP1 biomarkers and outcome measures. What on earth are you talking about, Mike? So this is everything we're going to do, as I spoke about before, for getting through clinical trials, for having measures, for having outcome measures. And right now we're focusing on proteomics in addition to the work we're doing with Tom Frazier and the ORCA. So that's super exciting. And if you're wondering if I got S-bomb by stealing Angelman's A-bomb, the answer is obvi. I'm not very creative, but it's a good name. SMART is this one. Aaron Harding coded this one. Project SMART, SYNGAP1 Missense Analysis, Research, and Therapeutics. So here, you've heard me talk about this before. The missense mutate, all nonsense mutations. All protein truncating variants, which includes nonsense, frame shift, etc., are assumed to act the same way. Good copy, bad copy. All missense mutations, on the other hand, are basically an individual case. So we cannot say, okay, this missense did this, so that missense will do the same. No, because every missense mutation is different. And this really adds a lot of complexity. And as a result, people generally say, well, let's go help the protein truncating variants. We'll get to the missenses later. Of course, if you're a missense family, that answer is unacceptable. And we are working with the missense families. I mean, our most senior leader, Suzanne Jones, the chair of our board, raised $1 million for SRF, by the way, is a missense mom. And so is Aaron Harding, probably the godfather of SRF. So there's a lot of strong missense families at Tavilla's, and they are really pushing us to do as much as we can on missense, and we are. So that's Project SMART. Project Purpose is the repurposing work that we're doing. This is the Ravicti trial that we have 9 people in right now with Zach Grinspan. This is the NAL, which you've read about on our website, and many people are trying. This is the Nortriptyline, which we learned from Rarebase. And I am trying, by the way, with great success. If you're looking for a drug to help your kid, I strongly encourage Nortriptyline. Got to get an article out about that. And then we just approved, I believe, I think we had enough votes in, the board to do another project with Unravel Biosciences. So it'll be another thing where we take, I think, saliva from 20 patients and we throw it at Unravel, and Unravel will do some RNA work to see if they can identify some drugs that might help. And you might be saying, dude, we did rare base for 2 years. We got Nortriptyline. We did Dr. Chow for whatever, half a year, and we got NAL. Why are we doing something else? There's so many drugs. Well, every repurposing screen is kind of coming at a different angle, right? Rare base was trying to figure out how to make SYNGAP go up, right? Dr. Chow was trying to figure out how to rescue an animal where we were knocking out SYNGAP. Different things resulting in different molecules being identified. Unravel will be looking at, I won't even try to explain it, but it's very cool stuff, and they're all coming in at different angles, and we've seen Nortriptyline and NAL help patients, and if Unravel can point us to another safe and effective molecule that we can use to ameliorate suffering while we're waiting for these genetic therapies, hallelujah, let's do it. So we'll probably put out a press release on that in a year or so, because there's so many press releases to do, but that's what's going on with the science team, guys. ACEs, SBOM, SMART, Purpose, and then the last one is Facilitate. Facilitate is the tools and reagents, right? All the mice we're making, all the cell lines we've made for patients, keeping track of and telling other scientists where they can find different things. Literally, we had one scientist doing mouse work, and they were like, I don't know if it was like, what thing do we stick in the mouse to move the whatever, or what kind of mice, or what background? Like the details are endless. But because SRF is here, we were able to connect scientist A, who doesn't know scientist B, with each other and get that answer in hours, right? And that is the power of having SRF here. That is how we are accelerating research. It's really exciting. And I'm just grateful to Catherine, Lindsay, and Marta for their tireless leadership on this front. If we ever get around to writing a book about SRF, they will be the rock stars. Research update, right? How do we measure success? How do we know things are changing? Well, there's a thing called PubMed, which lists every paper that's been published. And you can search for SYNGAP1. I'll put the link in the show notes. I got to add that link. And if you do that right now, there are 292 papers on SYNGAP1. Good news, bad news, who knows? It's pretty small in the grand scheme of things, but 32 of those papers have been written in 2024. 32 of those papers have been written in 2024. That's a lot. Right? The only year where there's been more papers written was last year, where there was 43 papers. And I am pretty darn sure we're going to see that 32 this year get well over 43, right? So because of the work of SRF, because of the increased emphasis in SYNGAP1, because of everything we're doing together, because this is a patient community that responds and takes surveys and goes to clinic and natural history studies and expresses an interest in participating in trials, industry and academia is working on SYNGAP1. I cannot thank you guys enough. It is changing the future for every child with SYNGAP, both those who've been diagnosed and those who are going to be diagnosed. And we have to remember, guys, we are the tip of the spear. There are thousands of undiagnosed SYNGAPians in the United States. And as they get diagnosed, if they're smart, they're going to come to us and say, thanks for all you guys did. We're so grateful that the wheels are already turning. How can we help? That is the appropriate response, in case anyone's wondering. And then the latest paper, there was a really cool paper that came out of our friends in Belgium, I think it is. And I share the link to their paper and also a link to their webinar that the lead researcher there did. I'm not even going to try his name. It's long and European and many syllables. But exciting work basically talking about how because the synapses mature too fast in SYNGAPians, that's actually one of the contributors to ID and ID being intellectual disability and autism. Because remember, humans, we develop slower than other animals. Other animals don't have time to take years and years to build their brain because they get eaten by whatever eats them. Nothing eats us, thank God. So our kids have times to grow and develop, and that very slow maturation is why we're so smart. And in SYNGAPians, the fact that our neurons mature too fast because we don't have enough SYNGAP is actually one of the causes for ID and autism, and that's what this paper talks about. Super cool. They took human neurons, and they stuck them in mice so they could watch them evolve into living things, because of course you can't do that to humans. I mean, this is like next level science. So exciting. All right, all this stuff takes money. Where's the money coming from? I want to give a shout out to our friends in Australia. Those Aussies, they're always coming up with something new. So now they're auctioning off a Toyota. I don't know how they got a Toyota, but if anyone can do it, they can. So they're auctioning off or they're raffling a Toyota in Australia. If I was there, I'd buy like 1,000 tickets for that. But that's super cool. Good job, team. There's a trivia night in DC in 24 days. If you're interested, it's called Smarts for SYNGAP. Email us. We'll connect you with the DMV families who are doing that. Very exciting. Scramble for SYNGAP in South Carolina is in 55 days. Julie Miles is doing that. Exceptional work. Really exciting. Both for the funds they raise to help us accelerate research, but for the community and the awareness that they're building where they are. I urge every family who could even imagine doing a fundraiser to do a fundraiser where they live, both to bring more resources to the fund, but also to build community and awareness for your loved one, because your kid lives where you live, guys. And that community needs to support and take care of our kids. So that's great work. And then the OG of SRF fundraisers, the SYNGAP Research Fund Gala, is in 68 days in Farmingdale, New Jersey, honoring Karen Lieb. This is not for Karen. I want to clarify that. But the driver of that gala is Nancy. Karen is her sister. Of course, she loves her very much. She is the ultimate SYNGAP sibling. And so the gala raises funds for SRF, and I'm really excited about that. There's also some online fundraisers. The Missense account at the fund, you heard me talk about Project Smart before, has raised $21,684. Please contribute to that if you can. Missense Families, that's where you can put your money to make sure that it goes to Missense Research. And then Emmy is doing a fundraiser for SRF. She's raised $6,449. Links from the show notes. Please help us raise money. Start an online fundraiser. Start a real fundraiser. We cannot do this without money. All of the complexity that we're tackling right now, and we're tackling it ferociously, requires resources. And every ounce of work we do changes the future for our kids. All right. Last thing I'm going to tell you to do. Because remember, I want your money, I want your time, and I want your blood. I'm very demanding. I just talked about the money. Time. You have to come to the conference. You have to come to the conference, right? This is going to be an amazing conference. The team led by Stacy and Laura and others working tirelessly. We're working closely with SLC6A1 and GABA A. It's going to be a great conference. There'll be conferences next door. There'll be rare disease advocates everywhere. It's going to be a wonderful experience, lots of positive energy, lots of learning, lots of hope. It's in 116 days. 116 days is not that long to buy and play tickets, register for the conference, buy tickets for the dinner, and book the hotel room. The hotel room is like $185 a night. Book the hotel rooms, guys, in the hotel. This conference is in downtown LA. I do not want people Airbnb-ing and walking. We have the whole thing is in the hotel. We have a lot of rooms. Dinner is going to be across the street. We're keeping people nice and tight. Please join us at the conference, 116 days. Register now. So that's money, time, blood. Blood donation. At our conference, you and your Syngapian will have a chance to donate blood if you bring your Syngapian. But before then, if you live in Kansas City, Combined Brain is having a conference where Syngapian samples can be collected on September 29th. And that's right after the Global Genes one, because we're all friends, right? Combined Brain, Global Genes, SRF, we're all buddies. And then PWS and USP7, led by the fearless Bo Bigelow, is in Atlanta on September 26th and 7th. So that's, if you're in Atlanta, go make sure, and you haven't contributed to our biobank yet, go make sure your Syngapian gives blood and you give blood. And so we have that in our biobank. And then go say, where's Bo Bigelow, and shake his hand, because he's amazing. And you might be saying, what? Why do you want our blood? What are you going to do with our blood? All these, when a company or a researcher decides they need to do some experiments, sometimes they need plasma. They need this part of our blood. And they call us and they say, do you have plasma? And the answer is yes, we have a biobank. But that plasma, it gets used up, right? So from just one patient and control, patient being, a boy or girl with SYNGAP, control being same-sex family member, mother, father, brother, sister, we can take that vial of blood and split it into like 10 different little, I think they're called aliquots, so these tiny little things of plasma. Send those to those labs and they can do experiments and accelerate SYNGAP research. This stuff is gold, guys. So please, if you have a chance, give your blood. This year, there's still collections in Atlanta, Kansas, and then LA at our conference. Last but not least, social media. I'm in the home stretch here. Our YouTube channel has 1,070 subscribers. Make sure you're one of them. Our LinkedIn channel has 3,713 subscribers. Again, make sure you're one of them. And don't just subscribe. Like our stuff. Share our stuff. Use the work, the quality professional content that we're creating. Share it to your family members. Share it to your brothers, sisters, colleagues, parents, right? Think about how hard and complicated it is for us to understand SYNGAP, and recognize that the people who love you and love your Syngapian are not in it like we are. And we need to keep them up to date use SRF's content to help you with that burden, because it's a ton of work explaining SYNGAP to your family. I created SRF. I tell you right now, my family, they don't get it. I'm not proud of that. That's true. Twitter, 11,168 followers. Insta, 48,000, whatever. TikTok, 418. We're not even doing anything on TikTok. If somebody wants to run our TikTok channel, let us know. If you're newly diagnosed, this is your first episode, go to syngap.fund/resources. We have resources there for you. If you're listening to this on anywhere you listen to podcasts, make sure you give this a 5-star review and share it. And then I want to give a shout out to the other SRF podcast, Café Syngap Uno, in Espanol. They've just dropped episode 117. If you speak Spanish or know people who do, share that. Check it out. It's amazing. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your time. SRF is changing the future for our kids. It's exciting times right now, and I look forward to seeing you all at the conference.